You're listening to the Autism Weekly podcast. Each week, we share community voices and bring light to stories that increase awareness, acceptance, equity, access, and inclusion across the autism community. If you haven't already, subscribe to join the Autism Weekly family. I'm your host, Jeff Skibitsky, and I'm excited to welcome Mishka Sibert. Mishka is coming to talk to us about her journey as an autism sibling and advocate. She runs a business with her brother Samko called Happy Autism. We're so excited to learn from her. Mishka, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you for having me on your beautiful podcast. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we're excited to have you as well. And one of the things that I love to be able to do is get to know our guests and to know their journey through autism. And this journey for you is heavily involved with your brother. So tell me, what was it like growing up with a sibling who identifies autistic?
That's a good question. I'm actually writing a book about this journey. And I was writing about this story a few days ago because I get asked this question a lot, and I was thinking like, hey, wait, I realized what was happening in my life, in my mind, my soul, my heart when what was the experience when my Samko was diagnosed. He was diagnosed when he was 2.5 years old. I was around 12, so I was a teenager, going through my own teenage stuff. And and the thing is, like, I didn't really know what autism is, to be honest. Now we are on the autism journey for 20 years, but back then we didn't have information. We didn't have resources, right? And we in Slovakia, that's where we originally from. There's not much still, but we didn't have schools, kindergarten, anything like that. The only main thing we really realized was that Samko wasn't speaking for his age. He was already supposed to be, pretty verbal. He was 2.5. And people were telling us, oh, yeah, well, he will start talking later. Maybe that's, not a big deal. But then my parents went to a psychiatrist for children, and she diagnosed him with autism. And I still I didn't see difference, to be honest. Like, for me, it was my brother's my brother. So, and this is why I always say, like, for us siblings, we see a sibling because our perception from our childhood is really affected from the childhood, right? And we as children or teenagers, we see the sibling. We don't know much about disability. We don't know much about autism, but what we'll see is how this diagnosis changes the perception from other people. For example, from parents. Suddenly, there's a change in behavior from parents towards us siblings, towards the autistic child, towards a dynamic, and what's even more, that's like very influential, but what's even more influential is the reaction of other people, the ableism that's happening. I didn't even know what ableism is as a word until like a year ago, which I learned from autistic self-advocates who I follow and learn from a lot, and I'll have friends that are amazingly autistic individuals. And I was just like, I felt injustice, right? I felt negative experiences, calling my brother a psychopath, calling my brother stupid, because he was doing things that were natural for him, because he wanted to connect with children through nonverbal communication, gesture, touch, which is 70% of our communication, but people are not so used to, right? So suddenly someone comes and like wants to touch you and wants to connect with you. He wanted to connect with children at a playground, and the parents were really cruel. People were stopping us and saying Samko is misbehaving, that he's naughty, and all those kind of things. And my parents had really hard time. So for me, it was very painful because I was bullied as a kid, right? And I was different. I was weirdo myself. If you can, I say it openly, I'm weird, okay? So when someone comes and just because my brother is different, why should he be treated so like horribly? He doesn't deserve that. And I saw how amazing he is. I saw him for who he is. His purity, he's beautiful, saw him who he is as a person. Yeah. And suddenly those labels started making, putting him in a box that I never thought that he should be put in, suddenly creating separation. So what started happening in my mind and in my soul is I was very angry because I knew what it feels like to be bullied. I knew what it feels to feel the shame. I knew how painful that is. So I started fighting back, and when I learned how to fight for myself, right, at the school, I was actually changing school, and I changed the class. I was going from this class where I was bullied at the same time when my brother was diagnosed to a different class, to a better class where I started having friends. So I had a big change in my life, two huge, enormous, big ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I started recognizing what it means to be an advocate. In the advocate was born within me at that time, without even knowing what happened. It was
Now
natural.
you expressed that, and it's, I think that I hear this story a lot from siblings where you're age 12 at this point. You're trying to figure out who you are. And you're at a point where now the family is, and rightfully so, is that they're concerned about differences and concerned about, how to be able to help prepare the community or your brother for being able to do everything he wants to do in his life. But the sibling oftentimes gets forgotten about during that time and almost kind of misses out on their own identity. You became more of an advocate during the process, which is admirable, but how do you kind of find that balance of, I want to be me, I want to be Mishka, I want to learn who I am. I know I have the things I'm working through, but I still want to support my brother. I still want to be a part of everything the family's doing. Where's that balance come?
Oh, that balance was so hard to find, and so many siblings, exactly as you described, were have you heard of term glass children?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. So the glass children you see for us, we're often neglected and deal with emotional neglect, trauma, and other stuff. But I spoke to many adult siblings, and I keep talking to them, and when I see, it's like, yeah, like our identities, is created around being a sibling. Like we become something, and suddenly it's like, who am I as a person? So I had this many questions, and I struggled with this balance. And also what I realized, for example, I went when I was 19 years old, I went to study to London at university or Westminster, and I went to pursue my own dreams, which was very hard at the same time. I knew that I have to do it. It was my parents were divorced, so it was just my mom, and me, and my brother. My brother started a new school, thank God, because he got more support. And I could actually go to new school. He could go to new school. I could go to different countries. So I was lucky. I'm grateful for that because I could be my own person and start realizing who am I. Many people didn't know my brother's autistic. That was same for my teenage years at high school because I was trying to protect myself and him from the judgment, from the cruelty that I experienced. But also, I realized that was part of it. It was escapism, an escapism into a different world, like trying to figure out who am I. But that was escapism instead of being an unhealthy trauma response that like, hey, well, I'm just gonna completely like kind of like abandon part of me that was there. And I need to combine those parts within me and create a bridge. How
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna do this? It's like living a double life. Many siblings come to me and they're like, hey, I feel like so guilty for even wanting to study.
Yeah.
I feel so guilty for wanted to be my own person. I feel so guilty for even having a boyfriend and not being with my parents all the time, even though I'm in 20s. And I told them, yeah, because you think, especially was interested with girls, we kind of like, I don't, I'm trying to find whether there's a study around this right now that we kind of like became a matters, like parents, like parentification is happening. We become like at the age of 9, 10, right? And I realized that it feels like we're abandoning our own child when we go and we do our own thing. So how do we get out of this double life that we feel guilty about all the time, whether we want to live our own life or whether we are a sibling? it's just like a torn between two worlds.
Yeah.
So what do we do with this? And I first think there was big healing for me was when I actually faced near-death experience because I was sacrificing myself, never asking for help, putting my needs like non-existent and all those things. So I realized that was a big aha moment for me. I was like, hey, I need to start discovering why I'm behaving this way. So for me, it's going deep into psychology, going deep into realizing why is this happening and doing research, talking to siblings and bringing awareness to the why those things are happening, right? To the core. And that really realized me, oh, I'm not alone. I'm not crazy. I'm not broken. Like, okay, as we were crying, like we were literally on a call with another siblings, and we were crying because we felt like finally someone understands us. So we are not crazy. So this is normal to feel this way. My parents didn't know about these things, and nobody knew about these things. I was like, why am I the only one that wants to get a therapy? Like, why am I the only one that starts questioning these things?
Well, that
So
sense of responsibility that you were talking about, and putting that on a 9, 10, or I mean at your age, 12 at that point,
yes,
is that's a tough burden to take. And
yes,
and you take on, like you said, almost that parental responsibility is that you have
yes,
to take care of your sibling. And I think we all have that with our family, but it's a little bit different when it's trying to protect. And you shouldn't have to protect your brother, like, I mean, but the world wasn't ready to be able to kind of create the same opportunities and the same embracing that they give to neurotypical children at that time. And I think that is hard because the guilt is there, and the connection that you're making now on being able to take your personal experience, your knowledge set, and tie that back into that love of your family and the love of your brother, I think is invaluable. So, how did that pivot happen? How did you go from this environment of, I'm guilty, I feel like, can I get away to school? Is my brother going to be okay? To getting that education, turning it into such a valuable experience, and now running a business with your brother, not for your brother, with your brother. How did that happen?
I love what you said about the wording with my brother and not for my brother, because in the beginnings it was for my brother. It was our Instagram handle was Sam called Sibert, and it was about his art. And I was again, yes, let's support my brother because he has no possibility for employment. So there was again like, yeah, let's do something meaningful. I was burning out, right? I just had this idea. I was actually going through depression, anxiety, panic attacks, so many things. Like it was hitting me hard. I was working two jobs in London when this was idea came in. It was 2016. So I was like, yeah, let's do something good, something valuable for my brother. And then I tell you what, funny thing happened that yes, so Ben Affleck received our T-shirt because a month after I got this idea, like didn't have business, I just had an idea. I wanted to do something good, and I told my friend because I worked in media and I studied television production, so I had connections in media, and I wanted to study and be in media because I wanted to use it for good. I wanted to spread empowerment messages to help people. So I'm just like, yeah, I tell my friend, hey, I've got this idea. I'm doing T-shirts about this art because I want to show the world what amazing things people with that are autistic can do, and they're able to shoot. I want to show them, hey, you don't have to judge them. You can see them how awesome they are. And my friend was like, that's cool. 2 weeks later or so, he messages me, hey, I need free T-shirts. I need and I'm like, okay, can I ask for who? Because we were just had like samples weren't selling them yet. He's like, yeah, for Ben Affleck and I can drink them for myself because I'm going to do interview with Ben Affleck, who's playing autistic character in the movie Accountant, and I want to give him gift during the interview so it can have something from someone's life that is the story is touching the lives of real people. I want to give him something real. What a better way to give him gift from someone that's autistic? I'm like, I was like freaking out. Okay, got them t-shirts. Happened. And the awareness was raised because the story touched millions of people in our country. That was my vibe. But I was like, I don't know what to do next. I had no idea. And I was burning out at the time because of those unhealthy sacrificial mindsets, which I call sacrifice mindset. I was in this cycle, never in this cycle, never asking for help. So I was like, how am I doing? I'm going to do this alone, trying to build a business and having 2 jobs. So I realized that, wow, this is a missed opportunity. I felt so guilty for not doing enough for my brother, for his future, and and not milking this amazing opportunity that happened with Ben Affleck. I crashed at the time, literally at the time. So now imagine this happens, dream come true, but it's like the best thing happens and the worst thing happens at the same time. I'm like, holy crazy moly, what I'm gonna do? So in 2017, when Brexit happened, I went home and I was home with my family, and I needed this time to be home to start taking care of myself. And when this thing happened with my near-death experience in 2019, so it was like 3 years of like trying to figure out who am I, right? Why these things are happening? That's crazy. Like I don't understand. So I started going deeper, 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 and I realized in 2020, I told my mom, people are asking me about t-shirts, but I don't know how to do this again. I'll fail again. I don't know how to do this. And so I asked for help. We got friend help with social media, but the thing she said, Mishka, this is different. You've learned. Now you will want to do this alone. You are a different person, and I'm gonna support you, and you're gonna do this. You'll be fine. It's not the same story. You're gonna do this differently because you've grown. And so in 2020, I was like, okay, fine, no expectations. We're gonna start it. We launched it when the pandemic started because we wanted to bring joy, hope, inspiration. So we brought the story Ben Affleck, and we're like, hey, this happened. Cool stuff, right? I hope it's gonna inspire you. I hope it's gonna bring you joy and hope in these times when not only you've got so much unknown with autism, but also there is pandemic happening, more unknown, more stress. Let's just bring you some sunshine and joy because that's what we want to do. So we did it together. We started doing things together. I started sharing my perspective naturally because I just needed. I just felt like I'm not showing people the true, like who we are, our story. I felt like I'm just showing one part without showing the other, which is the sibling. So it happened organically, really naturally. And when I said, and I was so scared I'm gonna burn out. I had anxiety to connect it to burnout so much because I burned out so much that I did not want to do it again. I saw that if I start doing this business, it might scale quickly. It might things like when it happen can happen, or what I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna miss the chance. So what I did is that I sat down and my mom told me, you don't do this just for your brother. Like, you don't ask for help. Don't repeat the same mistakes. I said, yes, you're right. Do you know what? I'm gonna turn my brother into creative director. I'm gonna give him a role. He's 18. He should bring money to this table. He should have responsibilities. Why I'm always doing everything for him. He's able. He's able to do things. He's got a voice. I told Samka, do you know what? You're 18. You're an adult now. Things are changing here, right? You're helping with house chores in our house. Great. But what about your purpose as a man? What about bringing money to table as a man? You've got 2 women that are taking care of you. What are you gonna do? And he's like, and he was excited. He felt like, yes, he can pay back. He feels that he can support me. I allow him to support me. I said, enough of being your caregiver. I'm going to be your equal partner. So your voice is going to be heard. Yes, you're not verbal or non speaking. I know there are different labels, but fine, you're communicating. I hear you. I know how to communicate with you. Okay? So you're going to communicate. You're going to be empowered. You're going to rise in your abilities and have an advocate for yourself because you're autistic and you are an advocate too. And I will have my needs met too. I will be
I
seen
love
as
that
equal.
story. That is, I mean, that journey from acceptance, and it's not acceptance in the terms of I'm accepting my brother. It's the acceptance of this is me, this is my life, this is my brother, Samka, this is his life. And we both have a chance to have purpose. We both have a chance to be empowered. And you challenged that philosophy that maybe was culturally embedded and said, let's get there. Let's do it together, but let's get there. Let's find our skill sets and move that direction. That's just such a powerful story as you look through it. And that acceptance journey, I think, probably is what now gives your voice so much more power, is that you went from doing clothing and taking his creative idea and putting it out there. But now you have a voice to talk to other siblings and to share that experience and to empower them. So how does this, I guess, on two questions. One is, what is that message that you're giving to siblings? The other one is what is the feedback that you're getting? Because it's going to be a different journey for so many different people.
Yes, that's a good question. I started something in November 2019, 2020. I don't remember the year. I think 2020. Yeah, 2020, because that's when we started our business. So in November, I was going through my own stuff. And when I was talking to other siblings, I felt like I need to share stuff because people were calling us sibling goals. Like people are seeing us together and like, your sibling goals. And I'm like, don't put us on pedestal. We're not perfect. You don't know the whole story. You don't know that we did struggle in our relationship. It took me years of healing and work. So I said, I felt like I'm not being honest. So I started sharing very hard stuff because we siblings, oh God, we hide a lot behind a smile, a lot behind, because we don't want to lose the love of our parents that is already limited, as I say. I say quote unquote only limited. From parents' side, it might not see like this, but that's how we see it because we are, hey, it's not just about attention. It's about when I was a caregiver, I wasn't a child anymore, right? Because the thing is that making myself into like, oh, this is what I talk about, and I call it autism pass. It's not my words, it's siblings' words. I'll hear them, I listen to them, and I communicate with them. So they talk about this like autism pass, and I started teaching about this more. And autism pass is basically excusing the behavior that doesn't have to always be autistic, or just like saying things like, "Oh, he's got autism. That's not his fault," or he's got I mean, he doesn't have autism. Sorry, I'm trying to say not has autism, but is autistic. Okay, I'm learning from my favorite autistic, advocates. They are teaching me about how to use correct language, so they're supported. Yes, so I'm correcting myself. Yes, so he's autistic. He can't do this, he can't do that, and talking about disability all the time. I was like, oh, he can't, he's not able to. And I'm like, who said that? Is it true? I'm kind of person is like, if you tell me I can't, I'm gonna show you I can. So I was like, let's challenge this. So I challenged this narrative with ability mindset. That's how I call it. Let's focus on what he can do, and let's mime this goal. And what had happened is not only, as I said, that's how I became my art and creative director. That's how he grew in his independence, his abilities, his confidence. But also, it helped me feel less burdened and bring equality into our relationship and balance, which is the world. Equality and balance is the key. Because if it's not, there is a resentment happening from both sides. He feels like a victim. I feel like I'm sacrificing myself. I'm burning out. It's not happy. It's not good for both sides, right? Equality and balance is the key. So what siblings saw, they started seeing, okay, someone understands me. It doesn't have to be this way. I can do better. Oh, I don't have to sacrifice myself. Like, even some siblings told me that, hey, like this is the first time I actually feel like I'm not crazy or broken, and this just feels like, because even I went to therapists and therapists told me like, oh, you shouldn't have any problems. You're young. You're intelligent, you're beautiful, you study in university, what problems can you have in your 20s? So even that started happening. So gaslighting and emotional neglect was still happening in adult life. So I'm like, hey, what the earth is happening? How can someone that has a degree in psychology say that to a child or an adult? That's clearly sharing that I have a problem helped me. And I experienced this myself too. So I was like, okay, I'm going to share things that someone else says. I'm going to give you a different perspective. And parents came to me and said, whoa, okay, this is like, I suddenly understand that I wasn't supporting my daughter. I was our son. I suddenly realized that I was the one that was helping them have separation. I was the one because I was burdening the neurotypical sibling. Suddenly, when I show them different perspective, I teach them about this, I give them tools to navigate this. Like they say that their children have more loving relationship, that the siblings, the neurotypical, feel more supported, and there's more connection, more laughter, more joy. And this is the happy autism, right? That's why I call it happy autism. It's for the families. It's for the mothers to know what to do. It's for siblings to feel heard. It's for autistic to feel equally empowered. It's for each member to feel happy and equal. So
Such a
siblings.
that goal that you're describing, I think that it takes what you're doing and what you're putting out there, that individual experience, that perspective, the understanding that everybody is experiencing the same events differently, yet we should have a voice through that process. I think that is so important. And whether it's a family member seeking support, whether it's a sibling who maybe said, I need to get my own therapeutic experience out of this. Trust me, validate my feelings through this and just listen, be a part of it. Or for the sibling where it's, or the autistic in this case, it's how can we help them to be able to do everything that they want to do in their life without having the barriers that we might be imposing on them by not challenging them, by not giving them opportunity. It is this kind of living, breathing kind of beast as far as these relationships all go together. And I like the way that you look at it as the happy autism. It's even when you think about treatment from a clinician perspective, it's not about fixing anything. It's about understanding, empowering, and building skills so that somebody can be able to do everything they want to do with their life. It sounds like you're finding a way to do that for siblings, which I hear your story and it's powerful. And I think that this message needs to be shared more broadly because more people are going through the same pain that you probably experienced on and off throughout your life of just trying to find the right place and the right things to do. So, how do caregivers help siblings to feel validated? How do they help them to feel as important as their autistic child in that same process?
Yes, in many ways, but one thing is needs. I talk about understanding. Say, first of all, many siblings, I spoke to siblings and I asked them, what do you wish your parents did differently? Probably every sibling said about emotions, emotional support. Um, and there's not shaming the negative feelings because siblings go through many complicated, complex emotions, feelings. And if parents are not emotionally capable or responsible or available in their own parenting role for themselves, how can they support their children? So that emotional intelligence and responsibility is so important because when you actually can, without shaming or neglecting or blaming each other or anything like that, understanding that emotions are spectrum, right? So welcoming them, helping their children with emotional regulation, that's just one thing. First thing. Second thing, not making sibling into savior. That, hey, when mothers struggle asking for help, what they do, I called it that they sacrifice their own children who are neurotypical because they think they're more capable. It's like, hey, save me, please. You seem more capable because you're neurotypical, so I'm gonna freeze. If they hold onto a stick when they're drowning, they're holding onto onto the neurotypical sibling. Hey, please save me. And sometimes many times they're not aware that I'm doing this. And no, and I say that I challenge this mindset. I say, does neurotypical sibling doesn't mean that you're neurotypical, that they're more capable. Doesn't mean that. We have our things we're going through. We are children too. Please let us be children and communicate with us about our needs. Sometimes those needs clash. That happened in our family too. For example, my mom needed support. She needed support from me, let's say, or needed to be heard, like needing someone to talk to. And I came and I said, I need space. I need to be alone because I'm very empathic, I'm very sensitive, and there's a lot happening. I need to process my own feelings. And then conflicts could arise because when two parties and two people are trying to get their needs met and her be heard, but they're clashing and they're struggle communicating those needs, that's when conflict happens. And on this journey, it's like, yeah, nobody taught me how to communicate my needs or discover them. And siblings have problem with that, and that's why I have something called communication needs guide. That it's we have it for free, and it's also part of our course. But I give this for free as a tool that parents and siblings can go and understand how to communicate. Because when you know how to communicate, you can solve the problems. And conflict happens for a reason. These things happen for reasons. And I always look for the why and the lesson that we can learn from this as a solution to the problem. So having something to guide us is very important, something that we can hold on to bring the clarity.
That's so true. I mean, and we all have, whether you're neurotypical or you're autistic, is that we all have challenges. We all have areas we're trying to strengthen. We all have life experiences that have changed us throughout that process. And we all have constant things that we're going to have to navigate in the future. And without understanding and perspective and communication, it becomes nearly important and even more difficult to be able to get through. So how do people access, because you said the way that you're articulating this, it really gives a view that not everybody can share because it's an experience that's unique to siblings of autistics and just people who are trying to find their own voice in the world. It's that consultation, that ability to be able to create a community. How do they access that through you, Mishka? Do you provide that sort of service?
Yes, so we'll be launching right now, opening. We actually gonna have a private Facebook group. I called it Happy Autism Family Club, which is for free. It's private. It's a safe space for families, for autistic individuals, and for siblings to come together as unity because there's a lot of separation. There's a lot of war in the online community between each party, and I'm like a peacemaker. I love uniting people. I'm like, let's listen to each other. And so that's one thing that we have. And then we also have our course. It's called Happy Autism Sibling Guide. And it's an online self-paced course which is affordable, which is for moms and siblings, adult siblings to watch, or moms of autistic and neurotypical children to navigate this journey. We also have professionals that are interested in this to purchasing because they're like, hey, can I get access to this? I want to support the families and I want to learn from sibling perspective. I'm like, yes. I was like, of course. So we have that also. Um, um, and yeah, we've got this access on our website, happyautism.co. But yeah, that's what we're doing. We actually created a foundation and I registered in Slovakia because we want to do bigger things. We want to bring more resources and more resources, which is registered. It's called Happy Autism. So we're doing many things. We're trying to go bigger and bring those educational resources to families, but also I mean as an advocate I do workshops for companies to support autistic individuals and neurodivergent thinkers to unlock more their abilities and support them through creating empowering environment. And I also my goal is also to go do workshops for special needs education schools to support them in this too, because I believe in autism success. It's possible. We were just featured in Forbes. Come on, it's possible. So let's do this together.
Yeah. Well, I hope that we can help to amplify that voice for you, Mishka. And you mentioned the various audiences that can benefit from this. It's being able to connect directly with autistic advocates. It's directly to the siblings. And you mentioned to clinicians to be able to kind of guide to their families. I would argue to say that clinicians should be listening to this in their own professional development to really understand all these experiences themselves. So they should be joining not to help others, but to help themselves too. I think that your voice will be powerful through this process. And I know you're joining our podcast today, but you do host your own podcast. Is that not right?
Yes, it's called Happy Autism Podcast. You can find it on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, also on our website. So we've got this, and I want to interview. I've got some interviews in my mind that with some awesome people from the community. So yes, I'm excited about our next journey with this. But I'm sharing a lot from my journey as well as a sibling.
We appreciate that, and I hope that that I can kind of pick up on some of those guests that you're hearing, because obviously your voice and your message is so important. So I'll definitely be a listener as well, and I appreciate you taking the time to be able to come and share your message with us and to empower so many people by being so open about your own story and creating this wonderful business around it. And Samko as well, is that his creative directing has, I saw the sweatshirts, I saw the art. It's beautiful. And I think what you guys are doing together is something that we all benefit from. So thank you so much, Mishka.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate your kind words.
Thank you for listening to Autism Weekly. We hope you tune back in next week to learn more about autism in the real world. Autism Weekly is now found on all the major listening apps, including Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon Music, and more. Subscribe to be notified when we post a new podcast. Autism Weekly is produced by ABS Kids. ABS Kids is proud to provide diagnostic assessments and ABA therapy to children with developmental delays like Autism Spectrum Disorder. You can learn more about ABS Kids and the Autism Weekly podcast by visiting abskids.com. Thanks for tuning in. See you again next week.